Welcome to the Dirty Mind Podcast. That's the name of the podcast that you are listening to currently. How about that? If you didn't know that, well, welcome, even though I already said that. And if you are new to this podcast, which would probably be implied if you didn't know the name of the podcast, here's how it typically goes. I talk with words for the most part. I stay on topic, and I talk intelligibly the entire time. And it's all pretty fascinating information that no one else has ever thought of or said out loud. So looking forward to a lot of good stuff today. We're going to be talking about video game expirations. Should they have an expiration date? We already know the answer, unless you're a narcissist. But before we get into all that business, let's go over today's favorite segment and everyone's favorite segment, not just today's favorite segment. I think the way that I phrase that implies that today as a day has a favorite, not the podcast, but the actual day that today has a favorite. Wow, that's fascinating. But yeah, the name of the segment is Old News.
I got nothing new for you.
Today's old news is, get this, the PS2 Slim is going to be coming out late 2004. It's the PlayStation 2, but it's going to be the Slim version. So what is the Slim version? Is it just the PlayStation 2 on a diet? Sort of. So the PS2 Slim is going to be a lighter and smaller version of the PlayStation 2. You will not be playing PlayStation 2 Slim games. You'll still be playing those classic PlayStation 2 games in addition to PlayStation 2 Slim games. Now, the PS2 Slim games are going to be labeled, as far as I know, with a rubber band. There's going to be sort of a rubber band logo, and that will be the indicator that says, hey, this is only for the PS2 Slim. But yeah, the PS2 Slim is going to look real nice. It's going to be thinner. I didn't think that the original PlayStation 2 was chunky, but hey, if it can be smaller, lighter, if it can be easier to throw it like a Frisbee, then that's all the better. And it's also going to have an Ethernet port. How about that? I don't know what that's for, because this whole internet thing, I don't think it's going to last. I think it's going to capture the attention of the youth, and then it's going to dissipate. But we'll see, we'll see. So the Ethernet port on the back is going to make it easier to access broadband internet connections. I'm just reading off of a sticky note here. I don't know what any of that business means, but maybe it's useful for some of you. I'm just going to be playing Ratchet and Clank on there. So yeah, look out for the PS2 Slim coming out late 2004. It'll probably cost money. Bye. So, big question of the day. Should video games have a shelf life? What a question. That's a great question, Dirt. Thank you, Dirt. So, we've seen the petitions about keeping games alive, and we've seen a bunch of different companies take different approaches to make it easier to continue making new games and charging more money for new games, and sort of letting their older games just float off into the distance and wave goodbye as the sail dips underneath the horizon. And some people are sad, and others are like, well, profits over people, right? You know what I'm saying? So what does this all mean for a game to have a shelf life? So in different ways, this can be it can manifest itself. So with a multiplayer game, I think it's much more obvious that it's going to have a limited window of time where it's going to be accessible to everyone. Everyone's going to be able to play it on public servers and all that. But when it comes to single-player games, I think there is absolutely no reason for a company to shut it down or not make it available for sale anymore in any way, or at least not make it so that it can't be played. That that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because in many respects, I would treat video games like music or movies, right? Because it's entertainment and it's out for the masses to collect and to utilize. You go out and you get a Blu-ray, for those who don't know what that is. It's basically a flat piece of plastic, and underneath it's shiny and it's got some cool colors in it. You angle it at the right way and it looks like a circular rainbow. It's interesting. But you pop it into a certain specific machine and then it starts playing a bunch of visuals where you look at it and you're like, hold on, that image is pretty similar to the one that just played a fraction of a second ago, but it's a little bit different. And that continues for like 120 minutes and then it's over. And so these Blu-rays are pretty cool. And it's one of many ways to consume the media known as motion pictures. And I think it would be ridiculous if someone out there said, what if we make it so that some of the Blu-rays just don't work anymore? Or if any time that a device that can play Blu-rays is connected to the internet, it has to go through a specific process to figure out if we want to allow anyone to watch that. That sounds pretty awful. That sounds like overreach. And it also sounds like, if I can put a little bit of an image into your mind. So if you ever gone out into the outside, not indoors, like the opposite of indoors, and there was just like a gravel path or a gravel driveway or something, and you just sort of laid down on the gravel, and you had someone else just grab your limbs and just move you all around the gravel and just, that's what that feels like. And that's what that sounds like. That idea is pretty much as good of an idea as having your friend turn you into a broom on a gravel driveway, right? I think so. So one thing I would say is that birds know what they're doing most of the time, right? They go up into the nests and they're like, this will be a good spot, and then they just sort of make the eggs, and then they have the eggs continue being eggs until they're no longer needed to be eggs, and then the eggs, I don't know, they get swapped out with babies, little baby birdos. And then the baby birds are like, I want to do that. Hey, Ma and Pa, I'm going to go off on my own and I'm going to do exactly what you just did. And the cycle repeats. But the thing that they don't do while they're doing that is they don't make a whole lot of cash. They don't make a whole lot of currency. And probably because they don't monetize the nests. If only they monetized the nests, then they wouldn't have to worry for the rest of their vida. That's life in Espanol, vida. So if you can follow me along this analogy, it probably relates to what I was talking about previously, where you have something that exists and it works for its intended purpose. But if later on you're like, wait, this could be useful for somebody else, then you can make more money on it. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Well, no, it wouldn't be wonderful because I don't like spending a lot of money. And if I already spent my money on a nest, I don't want to have to buy the same nest again. That's sort of what it is. If you had the experience, I should be able to experience it not just in the summer, but also in the autumn. So there's something about the color red that when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, how would you consider that to be an evil color? Why does that make you think that it should be equated to the evil eyes? A lot of video game enemies, and also in movies or wherever you, comic books, all those places, they have red as an evil eye look. For me, red is a very appetizing color. It's a very comforting color. I know that a lot of creatures have red blood, But blood is a good thing. It's not great if you see it because it should usually be on the inside, not the outside. But it is life, you know? Why is red evil? Why that color? I want to decide on some colors that are better for representing bad. So if you look at the color wheel, the updated one, the CMYK one, not the RGB, what you got here is looking at the three main corners here, if you will, the triad. You got cyan, and that's very similar to the sky, and that's a nice color. It's bright, it's beautiful, it's soft, it's luscious. It makes me want to drink some Baja Blast. And then you got magenta. Magenta is a little more warm, and it's brighter, and it kind of feels more chaotic in a way. So I get that. It's got a little more spunk to it, you know, a little more spunk. And then you got yellow, of course. And the yellow is kind of an enigma to me, right? It's hard to define because on the one hoof, it's like the sun, right? And that's fun. That's great. It creates warmth. And then you've got things like dandelions and sunflowers that can be yellow. And other than that, you know, you don't see a whole lot of yellow, right? Bananas, you see bananas, but there's not a whole lot of yellow. But there are very few situations in which yellow is intimidating, or it's like, hey, you get up and out of here. I know they use it for caution signs and caution tape and things like that, and barriers, but not too often does yellow do much more than that. I would say yellow is sort of on a scale from 0 to 74. It's sort of in like the 58 region, 58 to 41, where it's sort of doing something, but it's not doing all that it could do if it would do a little bit more than what it would have been. And then in between those colors, you look between cyan and magenta. You're not getting much. You're just mixing in the softness with a little bit of the cocoa craziness. And then magenta to yellow, there's nothing there. And then yellow to cyan, you got some green. And I think that's an interesting one to look at. So nature, obviously, on planet Terra, there's a fair amount of greenery. And usually that would represent health, right? That would represent healthy things happening. If the grass is green, if the trees are green, that's good. It's getting enough water. It's getting enough sunlight for the photosynthesis. And if anything else is green, though, it's not always good. If it's a plant outside, that's wonderful. But did you know that cauliflower and broccoli didn't just exist out there? And also broccoli, it's crazy. Broccoli flowers, it becomes a flower if you let it go. But when we usually eat it, it's before that happens. So we're cutting it off before it's fully grown, and it could have done more. It's like saying, hey, here's a caterpillar. It's about to go into its little cocoon. Actually, I don't think caterpillars go into a cocoon. It's a different word. I don't know what it is. It's like cairn or something. It's a weird one. But we're stopping the caterpillar before it turns into a beautiful butterfly. It's growing a little bit, but it's got the tiniest of wings, something like that. And now we're like, okay, now you can go into the butterfly exhibit. That wouldn't work too well. I don't think that would work too. It probably wouldn't fly very far. But that's sort of the point, right? You don't want the cauliflower and you don't want the broccoli to blossom because we're not interested in the blossom. We're interested in consuming the trunk of the blossom, right? So we're going to take a break and have a word from today's sponsor. Have you ever been sitting in a chair and you're just infuriated by the fact that your knees are touching each other? Well, introducing knee separators. These amazing inventions are able to keep your knees at the proper distance. They are adjustable so they can go from 4 inches to 4.5 inches, and it keeps your knees from touching each other. It's pretty great if you're the type who loves having a very specific personal bubble. You need to get these knee separators. Knee separators are the future, and I don't want to hear anyone say anything otherwise. Knee separators are going to keep us all on track and make sure that our knees never touch. I want my knees to be complete strangers. I don't want them to look anything alike. I want them to drift apart. I want them to meet at a family reunion and say, wait, who are you related to? That's what these knee separators are here for, and that's what they're gonna do. Get your knee separators today and make sure your legs remain strangers. So I was playing the Battlefield 6 open beta, and I couldn't help but think about the future, the far distant future of Battlefield 6. Because oftentimes we're always looking forward, and the only times we're looking backward is when we're thinking in the nostalgia ways. But with Battlefield 6, I started thinking so far forward that it's like, what if Battlefield 6 turns out like Battlefield Hardline, where it's like, it wasn't that bad, but it just didn't catch on, and it was just different. And I don't think it's going to be the same way like that, because Battlefield 6 is very similar to a lot of the most popular Battlefield games. But there's a thing that, I don't know, I'm not particularly keen on, where it doesn't seem to have much of its own identity. And I don't want to be like one of those who's just gotta have something negative to say about every new game that's coming out, because overall, in my short little time with the Battlefield 6 open beta, I had a good time. I enjoyed it. It felt like Battlefield. It was enjoyable. There were some moments where I was like, wow, how am I not in a movie? This is crazy. What a good time. So I enjoyed it. But something about it, I think it felt like it was trying to recapture some of the nostalgia without being super on the nose with that. The map design reminded me a lot of Battlefield 1 in a way, not in terms of the way the environments actually looked, but just the layout of the maps, especially the big open areas especially. But Battlefield, I would say 4 and Bad Company 2 had the most similar vibes to Battlefield 6. But the thing that made Battlefield Bad Company 2 so phenomenal was it was doing something different. It was pushing the envelope. The destruction was unparalleled. You could not find another multiplayer shooter with that level of detail of destruction. Being able to completely level buildings and dynamically change the way that the whole map looked by the end of the match. That was awesome. And also the Bad Company games had fantastic dialogue with the characters in the single-player campaign. So that was pretty great. And then Battlefield 3 was a little more close quarters combat, a little smaller scale in some ways. It felt like it was trying to be a little more similar to Call of Duty, depending on the mode. And then Battlefield 4 was like, hey, let's really push up the scale, and had those gigantic just buildings, skyscrapers falling apart. They had huge areas where you could jump off the cliff, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is going to take 7 minutes to fall to the ground. A lot of big stuff happening. And then Battlefield 1, I don't know what can be said about Battlefield 1 that's not already been said about Battlefield 1. It was so fantastic. The ambiance was unparalleled. The environments were so cool. They were so just next level. It felt apocalyptic. It was, wow, what a vibe Battlefield 1 was. And now Battlefield 6, it seems like it's a big combination of those three in particular. But what is it bringing to the table other than reinventing or redistributing those ideas, just bringing those back again? We usually need something new to go with our something old. I think that was part of what Halo Infinite was lacking a bit of as well. But again, it was good. It was good, and I think it's going to sell really well, and I think it's going to be the type of game that has a really long shelf life. And peeps are going to enjoy it, and they're going to be like, hey, you jumping on Battlefield? And the friend's going to be like, I don't know what that is. And it's like, it's a video game. And they're like, I don't know what video games are. I live under 2 rocks. And he's like, what do you mean you live under 2 rocks? And he says, well, I got sort of a sleeping bag under one rock, and then I got a sleeping bag under another rock, and I just take turns. So it's like on even days, I go under rock number 1, and then on odd days, I go under rock number 2. And it's like, oh, so it's like the rocks got divorced or something. And it's like, no, they just like to have their personal space. And it's like, oh, okay, I respect that. But yeah, I like the idea of Battlefield 6, like borrowing from those fantastic games. And if they can pull it off and recapture some of that original spirit, that's grand. But I just worry that there's not enough unique to keep that staying power, right? But also, hearing myself say this out loud, I sound like a really boring complainer who's got nothing to contribute. So what I'm going to do, instead of continuing to complain about something that doesn't really need any more complaints thrown at it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a good long look at this binder that is in front of me. So I got my beloved Flower. She has a binder, and she uses this area that I'm in, this desk I'm in. I'm not in the desk. I'm not trapped inside the desk. I'm staring at the desk. I'm sitting at the desk. So there's a binder, and it has flowers all over it, which is kind of ironic because Flower's name is Flower, and there's flowers on her binder. But it does make it very easy for me to identify. It's like I look at that, and I'm like, hold on. Whose binder is that? And I see all the flowers on it, and then I'm like, okay, hold on. Flowers get pollinated. Pollen comes from bees. Bees go buzz, buzz, buzz. Flower cut my hair that one time. Like there's like a couple hairs on the top of my head, and she cut it, and it's like the buzz is the sound of a shaver, right, going over, and it's like, okay, that reminds me of Flower. So that's how I make that connection between the binder and Flower. So looking at this binder, it's got a whole lot of pages in it, but a lot of them are blank. And what I sometimes think about is how many notebooks that I've purchased over the years to fill up with my many vast ideas. I'll do some writing or drawings, and I don't know if I've ever filled in. Sorry. I had 3 bananas earlier. I don't know if I've ever filled a notebook to the point where every page had something on it. And sometimes I feel really bad about that because what a waste. There's so many pieces of paper that could have been utilized by drawing with a dark graphite, right, over top of it to make little symbols that represent ideas. And yet there's all these empty pages that aren't getting utilized by a pig who just sometimes has a problem focusing. Now, it's not an issue recently or most of the time. I think I do goodly at focusing. Also, the name of the audio interface thing that I'm using, not sponsored, is Focusrite. And that's got the word focus on top of it. It's right there. Focus and then right, but not right as in the direction or the side of your body, right versus what's the opposite? Port side. But right as in RITE. I don't know what that means, and I don't think it's a real word, but that's the way it's spelled. Focus right, all one word. So go look them up, but don't look them up because there's no reason to. That's silly. I don't know who they are. They don't know who they are. They probably don't know who they are. That's the thing. That's the thing about it. Sometimes I think to myself, they don't know who they are. But do they know who they are? Oh, that's when they know who they are. But alas, goodness, they don't know who they are. So yeah, I think that games should not have a shelf life unless there's a specific reason for it. And what could be those reasons, though, Dart? Well, if it's a multiplayer-only game and you really rely on big populated servers and they have to be a public server from the network, from the developer or publisher, then that's a situation where it's like, okay, yeah, it can have a shelf life because how else would it be sustained? In a game like Mag, that's one that kind of it didn't really ever capture a wide enough audience, but it had a pretty cool idea. It was like 256 players in one game. It was crazy. The gameplay was a little stiff and the environments were a little uninspired, but it had some cool ideas. Now, in that situation, if you are going off of private servers and you got one host, good luck to that individual hosting 256 players without giving a crazy, crazy edge to whoever's the host, Now, games like Lethal Company and Repo less so because I think they got public servers now, but Lethal Company, it's always a private server. It's always one host, and then it jumps to the next host. And that's fine. That's good. And that makes it so you can just keep on going. You can keep on going. Anybody can just boot it up, and they're just creating their own server each time. And I really like that because that's a situation where there's really no predictable end. You can't foresee an end. And sometimes, yeah, there is an argument. There's an argument to be made that some pieces of art are beautiful because they don't last forever. But I don't know if video games could fit into that. Now, there's obvious hardware situations that, they fall into that category where it's like you're always dependent on a piece of technology to be able to play it. So if you don't have an Atari, good luck playing Atari games. Actually, a lot of games made by Atari were meant for other platforms. So, bad example. If you don't have a Sega Genesis, good luck playing Sega Genesis games, although there are emulators. I guess that keeps going with my original point that they should just be adapted so that you can keep being able to experience them. Because I wouldn't want to be one of those gamers in 70 years who has no way of experiencing Halo, right? Why wouldn't you want to be able to experience Halo? Why wouldn't you want to be able to experience Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, the original, not one of the 7 remakes? There's a lot of things like that are just, goodness, it makes you think about cotton candy and where the flavor comes from. Is it just sugar? Like what makes cotton candy different? Because you got cotton candy bubblegum, and then you got cotton candy ice cream, and then you got cotton candy, and they all taste the same. But where is that flavor? Where is that initiation of the flavor? It's not coming from, it's not cotton. It's not actually cotton, right? It is candy, sort of. But what creates that unique flavor? I don't understand what that is. And if it's artificial, it's definitely artificial. I don't think there's cotton candy trees or cotton candy groves out there. But since it's artificial, you'd think that's a specific. It's like a specific color. Like what are the synthetic flavors? How do you differentiate? Where do you collect those? How do they keep them? Do they put them in little jars, little mason jars, and they just label them with a fun little sticker? And it's like this one's got blue and pink. It's like this is the cotton candy one. But how'd you create it? Well, it's glucose and it's maltose and it's red dye. And that's it. And just a pocket full of dreams. Where do you come? How does that, where, how, and why? How did you make that? Who wanted that also? Were you trying to replicate an existing flavor somewhere? Or are you trying to make a new flavor? Does anyone do that? There could definitely be more flavors than there are now. Maybe someone is making new flavors, but we are not privy to them. Because whoever is more inventive and more creative with their abilities to manifest these new flavors, they don't have that connection to the manufacturers who are able to really put that into a full production. You can say, hey, here's an awesome flavor, but what are you going to do about it? Once you got that flavor, it's like having an idea. It's like writing a screenplay. But it's like, okay, but are you going to make it into a movie? Are you going to finance that yourself, Steven? I don't know about that. Marvin. Steven and Marvin, always going at it, right? It's like Steven's got the big ideas, and then Marvin is over there, Mr. Practical, always talking about the logistics. It's like, let me have a dream for 3.5 seconds, right? Oh, goodness. I get it. You want to keep me on track. You want to keep me focused. You want to make sure I can achieve these things. But sometimes, even if I could achieve them, it doesn't mean that I will achieve them. But I still like to have hope. I still like to think maybe it's possible. I still like to dream. You can't lose your imagination. If you lose your imagination, you're done. You are done for. As soon as you're the type who cannot imagine with, like, if you're babysitting, for instance, and the little pipsqueak is saying, okay, cops and robbers time, I'm going to be the cop and you're going to be the robber. Go to jail. If you start saying, hold on there was no due process. You did not read me my Miranda rights. I don't have my lawyer present. I'm not going to be speaking. I'm going to invoke the Fourth Amendment. If you start doing all that, the kid is just going to check out. They're going to be like, okay, no. None of that. We're past cops now. Now it's just a regime, and now I'm taking you down. You're not going to have a mouth anymore. We're getting the duct tape out. And as soon as you go down that road, the children, they just dip into that fascism real quick. And that's a slippery slope. You don't want that to happen. Children, it's something about that power dynamic. Gosh, it's rough and it's frightening. It's so quick, too. It's like as soon as one of the childs, they have more French fries, as soon as one has more, it's like, oh, wait a second, I'm in charge. I get to tell you what to do. All right, so you are going to get me my applesauce, and you are going to continue getting me all of the applesauce until I throw up. And goodness, you start down that path, and there's no going back. There really is not. It's like you're trying to run uphill in the middle of a snowstorm when the road is covered with black ice. It's just not going to happen. It's time for today's lucky color. Today's lucky color is orchid. Not only is it a fun word that is reminiscent of the flower, it also has it's a fun color. It's a very vibrant purple. It's real nice. It's got a little hint of pink to it, just the tiniest suggestion of pink. And the hex code is AF69EF. That's, again, AF69EF. That's orchid. It's a fun color. You can use it. I'm sorry, excuse me. I had 3 bananas earlier. You can use the color orchid for various purposes, and you're more than likely going to see it out and about in tractor trailers. A lot of tractor trailers are the color orchid. Honestly, that's probably the only place you're going to see it is on tractor trailers. Other than that, it's going to be pretty discreet. Any other iterations of that color. So thank you for listening, everyone. I'll leave you with this quandary. Where do chicken eggs come from? Because, I don't know, no one ever talks about where they actually come from. They say, what happened first, the chicken or the egg? But what about the chicken eggs? Where did the chicken eggs come from? Like, I don't care about chickens and I don't care about eggs. I care about chicken eggs specifically. Let's track that origin. All right, everybody, stay adorable. Unless you feel like not being adorable, but I can't imagine a scenario in which that would be useful. All right, adios.